Welcome to the Fourth and Long podcast, where your championship advice comes at no price. Today is Tuesday, September 13th, and today I'm going to be doing the waiver show. My name is Paul Collins. My co-host Nathan Young cannot make it in tonight, so today is going to be a solo waiver show. I wanted to get this episode out today on Tuesday, that way you can go into tonight, make your waiver claims before you go to bed, and then check on your waivers in the morning. And like I said, Nate will not be here for today's episode. Something came up with him. He had something to do tonight. But let's be honest, if Nate couldn't be here, or if Nate had the option to be here, I wouldn't be, because the Packers took a big L on Sunday. And as you guys know, Nate's a big Packers fan, and if you know, my Chicago Bears took the dub, a very unexpected dub. But hey, here we are. We're on Dub Tuesday, I guess you say, because we're celebrating now on the podcast. Um, but yeah, the Bears took a very unexpected dub. That game was really a crap show with the weather. Had some very unfortunate news in that game with the Elijah Mitchell injury, and we're going to get later on into that, into the waiver show. But I just wanted to give a shout out to my Chicago Bears for picking up the dub, and the Packers starting out 0-1. Aaron Rodgers already looking rough with them young receivers, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Yeah, but I just wanted to throw a little fun in there at Nate. If he listens to this, he can go back and he'll give me crap about it later, because they play. I think they play this week, so the Packers and Bears. Um, but let's get right into the waiver episode. We're gonna start off at the quarterback position. Now, we did have an unfortunate injury to the QB position. Dak Prescott had a thumb injury, and he's going to be expected to miss at least, I think they said, like 8 games. He won't be back to like week 9 or week 11 after their bye. So I'm going to give a couple QB options to throw in at you, just to see if these guys are still in your waivers. And 2 of them should be available in most of your leagues, and then the third guy is more like so. Just check and see. But, Dak falling to injury, or if you're worried about the performance of Trey Lance, even though the weather was a crap show, he did have a bad game. Or hell, even the elbow of Stafford. If you're worried about just the elbow of Stafford, here's 3 guys that'll definitely help improve your lineup. I'm going to start off with QB1. We're going to go with Carson Wentz of the Washington Commanders. He had a very, very elite game. He balled out week 1. It almost felt like the Wentz of like the Carson Wentz of Philly. He balled out. He had the 2 early touchdowns, and then he threw. I think he threw a couple. He started off with throwing 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, and he threw a couple interceptions. But he ended up finishing the game, as you see right here, with 313 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Wentz is the guy that I'm really targeting if you need a quarterback, just because of his upcoming schedule. If we scroll down a little bit here, we got week 2 at Detroit. Week 3, home against Philly. Week 4 at Dallas, and then home against Tennessee, and then hell, even at Chicago. Like, I feel like that's a really good schedule. And if you look at just a whole long-term season, the Washington Commanders has the 4th easiest strength of schedule going into the year at the QB position. So I feel Wentz is the guy that'll help you get through these next few weeks if you're not feeling, if there's no clarity at your QB position. Like I said, the Dak injury, the Lance underperforming, and then the Stafford, if you're worried about Stafford with the elbow injury. I feel like Wentz is a guy that'll get you through these next few weeks until there's clarity at that QB position. So that was my QB1. Okay, we're going to head into my QB2. And let me get him up on the screen real quick for you. Sorry, we're doing this a little different this week. It's going to be quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, Jameis Winston. Oh, sorry, and about the Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is available in 83% of ESPN leagues, so way more available. Jameis, on the other hand, is going to be available in about 64% of ESPN leagues. Famous Jameis is back, if you watch that game, I was kind of shocked at the stat line. Let me scroll down a little bit here. Look at this right here, the column I'm highlighting in blue. 0 interceptions. This man did not turn the ball over, and we all know Jameis is always one of those guys, you live by the touchdown, you live by the interception. They come and go, you know what I mean? He has a high TD upside. if he can limit the turnovers like he did this past week, Jameis could be a long-term fantasy quarterback. As we've seen, he finished as QB8 on the week, and that was with 0 turnovers. So getting these receivers up to speed, I mean, the Jameis could be a long-term option at the QB position. And his next few weeks is what makes me a little bit lower on him than Carson Wentz. Um, but potential shootouts here, we got at Tampa or home against Tampa Bay week 2, and then week 3 we got at Carolina, and then week 4 we got Minnesota, kind of a tougher defense, but then it kind of eases up at Seattle, and then Cincinnati could have a shootout potential, Arizona. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is very surprising to me to see that Winston did not turn the ball over. He had 2 touchdowns for 269 yards. I really like Jameis this year. If he can keep up with or lessen the turnovers as the season goes on, we could be looking at Jameis as like week to week starter, like a low end QB1. You know, I really like Jameis this year, and like I said, he's available in about 64% of leagues, so good amount of leagues to be available in. So we're gonna head into my third guy. Let me get him up here. He's available in less leagues, but he's definitely worth to go check and make sure he's not available in your league. It's going to be quarterback Kirk Cousins for the Minnesota Vikings. Like I said, he's only available in about 26% of leagues. I threw him on this list just for a guy to, just to go check your waivers. And I mean, this is our 4th and long league. Like right now, he's available in our waiver wire. So, I mean, that'd be a guy like if you, like I said, if you don't have if you're murky at the QB position, you might just want to go pick him up just for have the security. I mean, Justin Jefferson, man. Justin Jefferson is balling out right now. I mean, that dude is just playing at a different level. And I mean, it's what you expect, Justin Jefferson's a stud. You play your stud, And I mean, the 2 touchdowns, we could definitely see more of that. I mean, I don't know. Dalvin Cook wasn't that involved, so it is a little bit weird stat line this week with that. But yeah, just go and check and see if Kirk Cousins is available in your league. I really like him as well as Jameis and Carson Wentz. Yeah, so I mean that wraps up the QB. I mean most teams, your QB position is going to be like locked and loaded, but there are some people that are in 10 to 12 man leagues where your QB position isn't locked up as it should be. So I just threw the 3 names out there, just to go take a look for. But let's head into the more in-depth, where these guys are probably going to get picked up in almost every league. We're going to start at the running back position for the waiver wire. Okay, let me get him on the screen here. We're going to go with the first running back off the waiver wire board for me. It is Jeff Wilson Jr., and like we see here, he is available in 96% of leagues. I mean, this guy's going to be the top waiver wire ad. Like I said earlier in the show, Elijah Mitchell is going to be out at least 8 games with I think he had some sort of knee issue, and I mean that could have contributed from the weather in Chicago. I was really worried about Elijah Mitchell going into the year already having the hamstring injury. And he gets hurt. Like, you hate to see it because that guy was on pace to do some crazy things if Kyle Shanahan gave him the rock. So we automatically are going to default to Jeff Wilson Jr. He's the next man to step up. We've seen Jeff Wilson Jr. be successful in San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan has given him the keys to succeed. There are a couple guys behind him, but I'm not touching any of them until I see this backfield. If you're going to pick up a running back from the San Francisco 49ers, it has to be Jeff Wilson, just for his TD upside and just overall. Kyle Shanahan could give him the bell cow carries. We don't know yet. But if I got to go with anybody, it's definitely Jeff Wilson for there. So we're gonna head into my number 2 waiver wire pickup on the week. And this guy's a little bit interesting because I don't think he's a guy that you're going to be playing in your lineup this week, but you're definitely like long term. It's going to be Cleo Herbert for the Chicago Bears. I'm not going to lie, I have David Montgomery in a few leagues, and I'm a little bit worried about this guy. Cleo Herbert being available in 75% of leagues. Just a strange one. I mean, if you watch the game, I don't know if it was the weather, the game script. I can't tell you, but Herbert received most, if not all, of the goal line work this week versus the 49ers. And look, if we look at his stat line, we could see he capped it off with a rushing touchdown right here, rushing touchdown. So I don't know what the Bears are doing in this system. I mean, there were reports in training camp that said that Cleo Herbert was going to be like more fit for this new scheme that Chicago was bringing in. But I mean, that's preseason talk. But here we are in week one, and he's already gotten 10 total touches and then a lot of the goal line work over a guy like David Montgomery. I mean, this is a strange one. Like as a David Montgomery owner, I am a little bit worried that he is going to eat into more of his work. He might produce well enough to where the Bears can't take him off the field, and if he steals Montgomery's goal line work, that's definitely going to diminish the value of David Montgomery as a whole. So he's definitely a guy that I'm looking at. If I'm having David Montgomery, I'm going to go pick up this guy probably in almost every league I have him in. So, but he does have standalone value going into the next few weeks. Like I said, you're not going to feel comfortable starting him, like probably not this week or the next week, but it's definitely a wait and play, see type of thing with Herbert, and he's available in 75% of leagues. So, and then we're gonna go into this next guy, another running back, and another situation that is just absolutely shocking to me. I just cannot believe the way it played out this week. But we're gonna go with running back Kenyan Drake of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, as you can see, he's available in 95% of leagues, which is kind of strange to me. I figured he would have been picked up more when he did sign with Baltimore. Um, but as we can see, Jake Bender picked him up. Kudos to Jake Bender for that one. Um, if we could see, look, he got 12 total touches. I mean, he didn't do much with the touches, but that was a weird game in Baltimore. If you watched it, I think Lamar threw like 3 touchdowns, and a couple of them were like deep bombs. Um, and I think it's safe to say, like, the Ravens, like, going into the season, I feel like everyone was in the belief of, like, the training camp reports and everything that it would be Mike Davis. But as you can see, Mike Davis, he literally had 2 total carries. So, like, I'm just a little bit shocked about that. Like, the fact that Kenyan Drake took over and saw double-digit carries. And, I mean, if you're telling me that there's a guy on the waiver wire, which, I mean, he's not in our league, but like I said, 95% of leagues. If you're telling me that there's a guy on the waiver wire to get double-digit rushing attempts or double-digit touches in a run-heavy offense like the Ravens, sign me up. Like, and Kenyon Drake is not like some scrub either. Like, he's a decent player, and it's just a little shocking to me. This waiver wire pickup is a little bit riskier just because of the sole fact we don't know if J.K. Dobbins is coming back this week. Like on ESPN, he's projected for points, but that doesn't really show much. But I mean, Kenyon Drake, he's definitely interesting because I feel like if J.K. Dobbins is not back, you could start Kenyon Drake in your running back 2 or flex spot this week, going into the matchup against Miami. Um, like I said, run first offense, run heavy attack offense. I definitely want that double digit carries in a run heavy first offense. So yeah, I just wanted to give a honorable mention on the waiver wire, just because we don't know either. Jalen Warren available, literally free. He's literally available in every league. Uh, we don't know if Najee's gonna play. He left the game. Stephania Bell expects Najee to play in week 2. Um, so I mean, it's definitely one to look out after. I don't know if a lot of people will claim him, but definitely if you have Najee Harris, it might not be a bad shout to go pick this guy up. Because once Najee got hurt on Sunday, Jalen Warren saw every single snap afterwards. Which, I mean, the injury did happen in the fourth quarter, but I mean, he played the rest of the fourth quarter and all of overtime. So yeah, Jalen Warren's definitely the clear-cut number 2. He beat out Benny Snell in preseason, so I definitely would take a look at Jalen Warren. I don't know if he's necessarily a high priority claim. Then the next one was not Dallas, sorry, Detroit. Jamal Williams. If Jamal Williams is still available in your league, he saw double-digit touches week 1, 11 carries, 1 reception. He had the 2 touchdowns, man. That is so damning. DeAndre Swift owners, I am so sorry. Like, this guy is just in there stealing all the goal line work. I feel like he's definitely emerging as one of those top handcuff guys to where he has to be rostered. Because if Swift goes down, you got it. Like, I feel like a top 20, top 15 locked and loaded running back in every week. And we've seen Swift not be able to stay healthy. I'm not totally for drafting handcuffs, but he's definitely emerging into a spot where he's getting his own role. kind of like how Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are, but not on that extreme of a level. But he's definitely emerging into his own role in this Detroit Lions backfield. So if he's available, I would definitely take a look and see if you're needed in a running back. If you need a running back on your bench, I would definitely go take a look at this guy, and definitely he's a potential ad for sure. Um, so yeah, that breaks down the running backs. I think we went over like 5 guys potentially there. Uh, Jeff Wilson available in 96% of leagues. Herbert 75. Kenny Drake 95. Jalen Warren's like free, and then about 65. Yeah, 65% of leagues for Jamal Williams. So yeah, we're gonna get right into the wide receivers here. Let me just exit out a few of these. Let me get up my guy. My wide receiver 1 going into the week is Robbie Anderson of the Carolina Panthers. Now, I feel like every year we have this discussion with Robbie Anderson. And he's available in about 62% of leagues or so. So just throwing it out there. I mean, we had this conversation every year with Robbie Anderson. I feel like, he always seems like he's always on the radar of most teams. And week 1, he had a killer performance. 5 receptions, 102 yards, and a touchdown on 8 targets. So, he was Carolina's most targeted player in the game. It's also worth noting that CMC did have a down week. He had a kind of a slow start, so, CMC could eat into these targets a little bit. But, overall, Baker may have found his man here in Carolina. Baker's first year with this new offense, it's safe to say, 8 targets week 1, that's a high volume share in an offense. And I know DJ Moore kind of had a down week a little bit. What did DJ Moore finish with? Oh yeah, he 3 for 43, definitely a little bit more, but he did have 6 targets. But at the end of the day, Robbie Anderson finished with 8 targets week 1 is definitely encouraging going into the guy. It's still kind of early to tell. But if you're kind of needing like a flex play or you're just a little bit thinner on wide receiver, I would definitely look Robbie Anderson's way as a potential ad. Now this next guy I am not too high on, but I definitely had to throw him on the list because I know some people will be. But it's going to be wide receiver Jarvis Landry of the New Orleans Saints, available in about 42% of leagues or so. Yeah, about 42% of leagues. As we see, he had a killer week 1. Bit of a shocking stat to me. 9 targets, and I just didn't think the juice had any more juice left in him. I personally think that this game right here, 7 for 114 and 9 targets, I feel that this will be Jarvis Landry's best game of the year. I feel like MT kind of is starting to get his feet back under him in this offense. I feel like there's still more that MT could do. And then we look at Chris Olave. Chris Olave was not very much involved. He only had 3 targets. Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. My fault. Yeah, but we look at this. Chris Olave only had 3 targets. I definitely expect Chris Olave to be emerge as the wide receiver 2 in this offense. So if for some reason, yeah, Chris Olave is going to be rostered in almost every league, but if for some reason he's not, definitely roster Chris Olave. But I would be more hesitant on Jarvis. I just don't see this consistent wide receiver 2 in New Orleans offense. I don't see that being a possibility for Jarvis this year. I feel Jarvis will fade into like a role player type role, rather than being the option 2. But yeah, I definitely, with Kamara having a bad week, he definitely underperformed to everyone's standards. Still saw 3 receptions. Just didn't really. 12 touches for Kamara is definitely low. We definitely expect the 15 to 20 range for Kamara total touches a game. But yeah, I think Jarvis, I'm personally not going to use a top waiver claim on him, but I could definitely understand the hype with him having the big 100-yard plus game, and the 9 targets definitely encouraging. But like I said, I definitely think this will be his highest week going in. Okay, so now headed into our wide receiver 3 and 4, if I can find the team. Definitely going to be Curtis Samuel and Johann Dotson. Now I put both of these guys on the list because I feel like both of them are are both rosterable and both definitely need to be on people's roster. Now, Johann Dotson is going to be less available. He's only going to be available in about 44% of leagues, as well as Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel is going to be available in almost every league. Curtis Samuel definitely needs to be rostered after this week 1 performance, just for the sole fact 11 targets and he also had 4 carries. So, I mean, Washington is planning on using this guy, like they want to get the ball in Curtis Samuel's hands. And honestly, if we're looking at this, Curtis Samuel might be my top waiver wire pickup of the week. I mean, we talk about this every year. Curtis Samuel has always been a good player, always had the talent, but he never stayed healthy. And I mean, if you would have told me like going into Sunday, like, hey, you would be talking about 2 Washington wide receivers on the waiver wire show, I would have laughed in your face. Like, what are you talking about? But here we are. Curtis Samuel, Johann Dotson, both make the waiver wire show, and they both definitely need to be rostered. And 8 receptions. He had 8 receptions, 55 yards. And he scored the touchdown. Yeah, that's the biggest thing too. He had a touchdown. I didn't even see that. Yeah, I mean, if this guy can stay healthy, I feel like he could definitely be a wide receiver 2 all year long. Definitely a guy that I'm gonna try to be targeting. I think in most leagues. Yeah, Johann Dotson more or less available, but he had the 2 amazing. One of his touchdowns was like he like mossed a guy almost, and Carson Wentz just basically threw the ball up there and said, "Hey, go up and get it," and he did. Johann Dotson's definitely the sexy name, I guess you could say. You know what I mean? He's the rookie coming in. He already had the 2 touchdowns, but I mean he had the 5 targets on 3 receptions. I personally am gonna take Curtis Samuel over Johann Dotson just for the sole fact that they're trying to get this guy involved in the backfield too. So yeah, I mean definitely if you can get your hands on either of these guys, I feel like you can't go wrong. But I mean, at the end of the day, we got to temper a little bit of expectations with it being the Commanders' offense. But I'm definitely, if both are available, I'm definitely looking to pick up one for sure. All right, so we're gonna go into a couple like honorable mentions that um that I wanted to throw in the list just to get their names out there. Let me see if I can find them here. So it's gonna be Joshua Palmer for the Los Angeles Chargers. I feel like this week you could definitely put him in your flex play if you do need him. Keenan Allen is questionable this week with a hamstring injury. He had 4 targets week 1. I could definitely see an uptick in targets if Keenan Allen does miss. I'm going to talk about another guy later on this team in a different position. Same thing. He'll probably get a lot more targets. He should see an increased role overall. And then another guy I wanted to bring on the list that I haven't really seen a ton of people talking about. Let me search one. Yes, Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Zay Jones. I haven't seen him talked about too much, but the 9 targets in this offense is definitely encouraging to me. And he's definitely not a guy that I'm saying go out and pick up right now. He's a guy that I'm looking at potentially next week to see how he does. But 9 targets is definitely encouraging to me. 6 for 65 and 9 targets. They got Christian Kirk there, but I still like they're trying to establish their wide receiver 1. I believe it will be Christian Kirk. But I mean, Zay Jones has the potential to slide in to be their wide receiver 2. Marvin Jones is getting older. We'll just have to wait and see. This is kind of like a wait and see, play out type of thing. But you know me, I love targets. So seeing a guy with 9 targets is just very, very eye-opening to me. So definitely a guy that I would just be interested in. Not go and claim. He's not worth a claim this week. But definitely a guy that you just want to keep your eyes on. And another guy that should be available in a lot of leagues that probably shouldn't be. But he's a guy that you're not going to want to start in your lineup every week yet. Not yet. But as Isaiah McKenzie, I mean, he was like the preseason darling. I know he got drafted in some leagues. Yeah, definitely Isaiah McKenzie definitely needs to be rostered just to wait and see how this Bills offense plays out. I mean, anytime you can get a guy as talented as Isaiah McKenzie in a high-powered offense with Josh Allen, I mean, it all lines up perfectly. You know what I mean? So I definitely would go and snag Isaiah McKenzie if you had the extra bench spot. Just kind of a wait and see. Definitely not in your starting lineup just yet. But I mean, it is encouraging. He did catch the touchdown. It was a nice slant route that they designed for him. So we'll definitely have to wait and see because, like I said, there's still Jamison Crowder. He's still there. He might not go away. We'll just have to wait and see how that role plays out. But I'm definitely picking up Isaiah McKenzie and stashing him for future play. Yeah, so that breaks down the wide receiver. I think we threw in 3 or 4 guys you could realistically pick up, and then like 3 honorable mention guys. So yeah, I'm gonna throw in tight end position real quick before we end the episode. I'm gonna throw 2 tight ends that I think you can pick up and play this upcoming week. Let me just find them real quick. So it's gonna be the tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers, Gerald Everett. He had a really good week 1. Like I said earlier, with Keenan Allen hamstring injury, you could see an uptick in targets. He had a really nice touchdown where he boxed out a defender and basically just overpowered him as he went to the end zone. It was kind of impressive. And just overall, Gerald Everett's been, I mean, he's always been hit or miss in fantasy. Like, I felt like he was everyone's darling when he was on the Rams, but he never just could be that, like, weekly startable tight end. I mean, but who knows? I mean, it's a new scheme, and it's a new scheme for him and with the Chargers. Who knows? The Chargers might use the tight end position a little bit more. They kind of did with Jared Cook. So, I mean, with Keenan Allen, if Keenan Allen misses this week, I feel like you can play him at Kansas City, which should be a shootout this week. Definitely should be a high-scoring game. And another guy I wanted to throw in late that I think could be like a long-term play. I feel Gerald Everett, it might not be a long-term play just because we haven't seen him do it, but it's definitely a chance. But I'm gonna go with a guy that I think could be a long-term tight end option if you needed it. Hayden Hurst of the Cincinnati Bengals. He looked really good out there. I actually went to this game. I went to the Bengals vs Steelers game. Amazing game. The finish was absolutely 10 out of 10. But he saw 8 targets in this offense, and I feel like, man, I mean that's a lot of targets for a tight end that that had no intention on being that type of role. And then we also saw the addition with T. Higgins getting hurt. So, I mean, this could open up more targets if T. Higgins were to miss. So, I mean, Hayden Hurst, he's been somewhat productive on other rosters. He's never, broke through to be that, tight end darling, that everyone plays. Like that Robert Tonyan type role, like a couple years ago, where he was drafted late and kind of thrown in everyone's lineups. But, I mean, Hayden Hurst, we need to see how the targets share out. If he keeps getting, 6 to 8 targets a game, I feel like he's going to be due for a touchdown. He's going to be due for more touchdowns with that many targets. So he's definitely a guy that could be a long-term play. And I mean, if you're looking for a tight end help, potentially throw him on your bench and stash him. Maybe, I mean, he's going to probably go unclaimed. He's probably going to go unclaimed this week. So if you're looking for a guy to potentially claim after the waivers go through at 4:30, look at Hayden Hurst if you need tight end help. Yeah. So I think that wraps up all the guys we talked about. We went through the quarterbacks: Carson Wentz, Jameis, Kirk Cousins. Running backs: Jeff Wilson, Cleo Herbert, Kenyan Drake. Honorable mentions: Jalen Warner for the Steelers, Jamal Williams. Wide receivers: Robbie Anderson, Jarvis Landry, Johann Dotson, Curtis Samuel. Honorable mentions for the wide receivers: Joshua Palmer, Zay Jones, and Isaiah McKenzie. So yeah, that wraps up the waiver show portion. Yeah, and like I said, I wanted to get this episode out to you guys. With Nate not being here, I just wanted to throw out some names that I actually really do like this week. So you could see this tonight. Plan your waivers tonight. Check in the morning. Who knows? Some of these guys that I named could clear waivers, and like I said, you could pick them up at 4 a.m. when waivers go through. So yeah, this was a good episode. A little bit different with just being by myself, but I'm glad Nate wasn't on because I would have gave him hell about the Packers losing and the Bears winning. So, but yeah, this was a good episode of the Fourth and Long podcast where your championship advice came at no price, and we'll see you hopefully. We're hoping to get an episode out. Today's Tuesday, so hopefully probably Thursday or Friday. We're gonna try our best to get one out for you guys. But thank you guys for listening, and go get these guys on your waivers. Have a good day.